If you like what you're doing, then you can actually achieve quite a lot. You can actually do quite a lot, and because it's not work no more.
What advice would you give to someone in looking for what business to start? So, the initial stage, business idea.
The most difficult thing till today that I've ever done is passing the chartered accountant exam. Not even the PhD.
I wanted to ask.
I come from a humble background, very humble beginnings as well.
Okay.
So I'll tell you a little secret.
Okay.
My worst marks was tax.
Are you serious? Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode. My name is Precious Molepo, and today we have a doctor in the house. I'm joined by Dr Muneer Hassan, who is a chartered accountant, a certified tax advisor.
A chartered tax advisor, CTA, the designation is.
Tax advisor, as well as most recently, you obtained your PhD. So
I did.
You're a doctor in taxation. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Precious. And just to kick off and to say that it's such an honor, to see somebody that has gone through my class. We actually get very happy when we see our students excelling in these positions, and to be interviewed by somebody like yourself who has passed through my class
Yes,
a couple of years ago.
I was your student, yes. Twice, actually.
Twice, okay. But it's an honor and nice. We get very happy. There's a sense of pride, enjoyment,
so
and
much.
also a success on our side when we see you guys excelling.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. So you have quite the list of things on your to-do list or on the activities you're involved in. And for the first time, I'm actually going to read off that list.
Go for it.
It's obviously not everything because we'll be here for the whole day if I had to read everything. So you're a chartered accountant, a chartered tax advisor.
A chartered tax advisor.
You're also a senior lecturer at the University of Johannesburg and the deputy head of the accounting department at the University of Johannesburg. You're also a director and lecturer at the Gauteng board course. You're a regular guest on live television to provide your commentary on the national budget speech and more. And you are a member of a few committees at SARS, including the chairman of the VAT ruling committee. And you're a director at Muneer Hassan Tax Consulting.
That's right, yeah. So just a correction, I was a previous member of the VAT ruling committee at SARS. That was in my former position, yes.
How do you get time for all of these? How do you get time for all of these roles?
So it's the passion, Precious. I think the one thing in life one needs to understand is that, find your passion and then the work becomes easy.
Yeah.
It's about that motivation and that passion that you want to, you must actually enjoy getting up in the morning, actually going and finding that new day as well. And everything is, you're going to find lots of excuses to say, I can't.
Yeah.
But what's going to drive you is that passion for what you want to do and what you want to excel in. That's going to keep the motivation and that's going to keep you strong. So I guess you asked me the question to answer the question. But what actually drives you and what actually pushes you to, and what makes you achieve so much, I guess, that is the passion behind what you like to do. So if you like what you're doing, then you can actually achieve quite a lot. You can actually do quite a lot, and because it's not work no more.
Yeah.
It's actually just another routine or something that you enjoy doing.
Yes, because when I saw that list, I was like, there's no way we both have 24 hours in a day. You must have more somehow. But let's start with who Muneer is. Tell us a bit about yourself. Where are you from? Where did you grow up? Siblings?
So I grew up in the south of Johannesburg in a small little town called Lenasia. So it's just opposite Soweto.
Okay.
A different life to today and what you would know and understand it to be. I mean, when I grew up, there was no cell phones. We played in the streets. I come from a humble background, very humble beginnings as well. We struggled for money as well, for finances, to study. And study wasn't, it was a privilege, it was an honor, it was something that, people didn't have access to. So when you got the opportunity, you actually grabbed it with both hands. I come from a family of 5. We're a big family. I've got two sisters, 2 brothers. I'm the baby in the family.
Oh, okay.
So I always tease out and I always say that, they left me no choice. My brother is a chartered accountant and he's 2 years
Oh.
elder than me.
Okay.
My eldest brother is also in accounting. So I
Okay.
always say that, I actually didn't want to do accounting, but what could I do?
You had no choice. Oh, that's amazing. Your parents must have been so proud.
Yeah, my dad was also in accounting. So you can see it's
So
in the
runs
blood.
in the family.
It's in the blood. So yeah, I actually wanted to become a doctor, but
Oh, okay. That's actually
You
my
know.
next question. What did you want to be when you grew up?
so it was accounting. So I had a strong liking to accounting in school.
Before then, even like as a
yes.
child, what did you want to become?
It was accounting.
Are you serious?
Yes.
From what age?
So I think because my dad, it was in the
Okay.
family.
Oh,
So
okay.
we seen what he done. We seen those days it was manual ledgers and books, and he was busy with those kind of things and numbers.
Okay.
And I always, you look up to somebody that's in your family or something that you get into what as human beings. We like comfort zones.
Yeah.
So I could identify with that life. I could identify with what he's doing. I could see he used to take me along to some of his clients as well. So I seen what he done. So at a very young age, naturally then in school what happens is accounting becomes your number one subject, and you start investigating about it. What is accounting about? I didn't know there was a thing known as a chartered accountant. And when I first bumped into that, I think you sort of get into that when you in your latter part of your school years, when you need to take a decision as to what you're actually going to do. And then you get introduced to the different careers and options out there, and what can you study? And that's when I learned about chartered accountant. And I said, I was just attracted to the word chartered. I done a little bit of research. Those days there was very little of internet.
Yeah.
You had brochures.
So you're telling me
The
you
firms.
completed your degree without internet?
It was just starting at those
Oh,
days.
okay. So you could research it.
You could research. It was just the beginning of the
Okay.
internet, if you want to call it.
Yeah.
But a lot in terms of, we actually had brochures, those brochures that you would work through, and the firms would give it to you and tell you about the firm and about the accountancy profession.
Yeah.
I remember working through these brochures, and what really attracted me to it is what then said, this is the top of the accounting profession. If you want to be the best in accounting, the best and the top of your game as an accountant, this is what you need to do, and that attracted me.
That's amazing. So you wanted to be the best.
The best.
So what do you do for fun?
So for fun, I read.
Okay.
Sounds very boring.
What are you reading?
So I read a lot. I like to be in tune with what's happening in the environment.
Okay.
Nowadays it's on, before it was books, and now you can do it on your phone. So when you're strolling around, I would look at various articles. I like to be connected with what's happening in the market space at the moment. I look at companies. I look at politics. I look at everything that's happening around me. I think it's important because we don't live in an isolated world.
Yeah.
I must be able to have a conversation with a politician, with you as a student. So I need to understand your world, and I think the only way I can do that is by understanding and reading a lot. But I'm not that boring. I also like to travel.
Okay.
It grows you as a person. You see things that you would never experience from reading.
Yeah.
And it's important to be in tune and connected to the world, just to life, to see what others are experiencing out there also. It's amazing. You grow a lot.
Yes. What's the one destination that's at the top of your list, your favorite?
So we done it last year actually, and it was Istanbul. It's extremely rich, in terms of its culture, in terms of its heritage, where it comes from. It's beautiful as well. It's got the European side, it's got the Asian side. East meets west, The culture was just amazing, and a lot of history, which I loved about the place.
Definitely on my list of places.
You
to
must
visit.
do it.
Yes. I only just passed through airport, and already the people were so nice. But definitely.
You would love it.
Yes. Speak us through your journey to CASA. So where did you do your articles? Where did you study?
So like I said, money it was hard to find, and we had to take what we could initially. I would have loved to have gone to a WITS, to UJ.
Yeah.
That time it was RAW, but I didn't have the option. I went to UNISA, so I studied, and you had to persevere. You had to actually do very well. And like I said, you had to grab what you got with both hands and make it work. Because if it failed, there was no option for failure. There was no room for failure. Because if it failed, where do you go? So you had to take what you got and make it work. So I studied very hard, made sure that I get top marks as well. Because each year, if you got your marks, then you got a bursary, or at least you got a credit against your next year's registration fee. I would also work in the holidays just for pocket money so that I could pay my studies as well. And when I completed, I landed a job at PwC. And it was like, wow, this is a massive company.
Yeah.
It's in Sandton. I've never been to Sandton. It's this big world. I've only been to Johannesburg before.
Yeah.
And now suddenly you're in this new environment. And so PwC was... it was a good company to work for. We got good exposure, but we didn't get tax exposure.
Okay.
So I'll tell you a little secret.
Okay.
My worst marks was tax.
Are you serious?
Yeah, between me and you, between friends.
So how did that work out? Why did you go so deep into tax?
So and I think that's a journey, and there's such an important message if I give to your students and to your audience as well.
Yes.
As human beings, we like comfort zones. We don't like when we actually are challenged. And what I done is I said, look, I'm not good in tax. That was the one area I actually wanted to excel. But in school, in university, it was the one subject I just could not get on top of.
Okay.
And what I done is I said, even in PwC, what they done, you in articles at the moment, you do audit, you do nothing of tax or very little of it. They will call it
Close to nothing,
tax people in, and they'll have their budget and they'll sort it out, and they come and you don't even know what they do.
Yes.
And then you get a bill, and you've got an internal bill in the company.
Exactly.
So we got no exposure in tax as well. And I said, before I do what I actually wanted to do all my life, which is to go into finance, into accounting, and a leadership role as an accountant, maybe a CFO of a company, I need to face this beast, this devil.
Yeah.
and
When were
get
you having this
over it.
conversation? In university?
It was towards the end of my PwC
Okay.
articles already, when I needed to decide what to do.
Okay.
And I said, I think I need experience in tax, and I need to overcome this. I seen it as a challenge, to be honest. And I said, if I can actually learn and I can actually understand tax, I think I would have overcome a big difficulty in my life. So I seen my difficulty as a challenge. And when I went into that, that's when, I started looking at alternatives. And at that particular point, SARS, fortunately, was offering 2-year contracts to upcoming chartered accountants like myself. So it was in the days of when Pravin Gordhan was the SARS commissioner.
Okay.
And he started he wanted to build the skill sets within SARS, and he started offering just short-term 2-year contracts. You could come in, learn tax, see if it's for you or not for you, and if you didn't like it, you can go back into your career. And it fitted perfect with where I found myself at that particular point in time. And I done the 2-year contract at SARS, and you know what happens? Before you know it, you start loving it, because I then seen that tax is actually, it's not about the calculations that you done in your CTA.
Yeah.
It's actually more than that. It's about a law. It's about interpretation. It's about the ability to build arguments. And each person has their own arguments. And if you can put forward a valid argument, then you've got a strong case to put on the table. And you've got a strong basis and a point of argument. And that would hold weight. and somebody would listen to you.
Yeah.
And I said, wow, that's amazing. And when I got into the interpretation side of things, it just blew me away. I loved it. I said, sure, there's actually a world beyond auditing, which I traded as an article clerk. And I said,
Yeah.
wow, there's actually nice stuff out there. And I just loved what I was doing. So that's the attraction to the world of taxes, and that's actually how I got into tax.
And then how many years did you end up staying with SARS?
So it became a 7-year stint.
Oh,
A 2-year
so 2 years
contract
became
became another
7.
3-year contract, and then another 2-year contract. Eventually, I landed up in the technical division. So I started off in the VAT department.
Okay.
Interesting. We'll talk about it, and we'll
Yeah.
circle back to that. And that's how I got to my PhD topic, obviously in VAT.
Yes.
But my starting journey to tax, the tax world, was in the Johannesburg Fox Street department back in the day,
Oh, okay.
in the SARS VAT department. That's where I started, and that was my beginning journey to tax. Eventually, I got up the ladder, and I ended up at the large business center in the tax technical division, and we done a lot of internal opinions to the auditors before they raised the assessments. So again, it was about the interpretation side of things. We also done a lot of training initiatives, so changes in the tax laws. Like you know, it comes every year at a pace.
Yes.
So what we needed to do is obviously upskill the auditors to make sure that they're up to date with the most current laws and amendments, so that
External
they could
auditors.
internal.
Internal
So
auditors,
so
okay.
so SARS has a lot of internal, the assessors, the guys
Yes,
that you know when you
yes.
pop your SARS tax return in
Yeah.
and they say you have been flagged for audit. Those are the guys
Yes.
that come to
Okay,
you. So we had almost like an internal consulting division, the large business center. It was set up quite nicely. Joseph Rock headed the department at that stage. He came from PwC,
Okay.
from a consultancy environment, and that's why it was quite interesting, the model, that what he done is he used us as an external consultant to the internal auditors, if you order
Okay,
auditors
okay,
within
okay.
SARS, and we obviously bounce back to them all the time.
Okay. And you were close with the commissioner.
So we did work. When you work with him, we engage with him.
So the commissioner is a person.
Yes.
Okay.
So the commissioner was Pravin Gordhan,
Oh,
and
I
that's the particular
see.
point in time when I
Interesting.
served,
Okay.
and obviously changes all the time.
Okay.
And I was very fortunate because at that particular time, or at one particular stage, I headed up integrated audits. So, you know, we talk about integrated thinking as a chartered accountant. We were doing integrated audits back in the day when I
Okay.
was at SARS. Can you imagine that? That's integrated. So we were already bringing the various taxes together, and we said, hang on, you can't just do a VAT audit or pays-you-earn audit or income tax audit because you're not seeing the whole picture. One needs to bring all this together and actually do an integrated audit. So bring the VAT specialists, bring the corporate tax specialists together, and we done integrated audits. And I was then given a team of other chartered accountants to head up, and I was fortunate enough to then achieve or win the SARS Commissioner Award for
amazing.
the one particular year where we actually excelled in terms of the targets that were given to us. So I was
And
very
what
fortunate.
type of
to
targets do they put in place? especially
Heavy
for this one?
targets. So obviously you would have different targets, like your KPA
Okay.
at the firms as well.
Yeah.
There'll be quite a balanced scorecard, and I think Pravin was quite smart when he brought the professionals like us in. He dealt with us as professionals, so he gave us a scorecard.
Yeah.
You know, and he started giving us and treating us as if we were working in the professional world. So there was training initiatives. There were actual number of cases that you needed to do. There was actual number of assessments you needed to achieve. So it was quite a nice and a balanced scorecard, if you want to call it. And
Yeah.
obviously what he done is he measured us against that. And if you excel, then you would be offered a new contract again.
Oh.
So it was quite smart from his side, the way he
Very.
dealt with us.
Okay.
So-
So that's very interesting.
So it's very
to-
performance-based, and you can see
Yeah.
how then SARS started to become a very performance organization. It all went south after that, after I left, obviously.
Oh wow.
But it was days after I left. I do
Okay.
think that SARS is rebuilding, and it's
Yeah, it
important
is.
for them to be actually operational at the forefront.
And if you had to turn back the hands of time, what advice would you give to yourself as just a newly qualified chartered accountant?
So I think, Precious, I think the one thing that I would have done differently, and Saika has got it right, is really this whole point about digital acumen, being tech savvy. You know, it's not just about the technical side of things, critical thinking, integrated thinking. Those what you want to package it as, if you want to call it soft skills, those things are extremely, when you get into the market space, you only realize that you can't be a book person. You can be a book person and you can excel and you can exceed in your studies. But once you get into the real world, when we do this, when we converse with each other, you need to be a well balanced person, and all those soft skills become so critical and important. And I
Yeah.
think something that we can do better, if I had to go back and say, Muneer, as a youngster, and have a conversation with myself again, I would say that build and sharpen those soft skills, work on it, because you learn into the big world and they expect it of you. They expect you to do a presentation. They expect you to build arguments and sell a business case. And we don't, we're not building that. Yes, we're starting to do that at the universities only now,
Yeah.
but back in the day when I was at universities, those were ignored.
How are
As
they
simple
trying
as
to
that.
build those in university?
So I think a lot of it's not just about the assessments nowadays.
Okay.
It's a lot about, we get students who work in teams as well.
Okay.
Teamwork is important because when you get into the big world, as you understand, when you get into an audit team,
Yeah.
you're only as good as your weakest link.
Yes.
And you need to manage that process. And I think those are the things that, I talked to my daughter, she's in a BAC at the moment, and she said she's learning so much. She's working with diverse cultures. She's just the ability to mix and deal with different people, understand different backgrounds, and also see who's going to take the leadership. How do I fit into a team? That's so important. So I think projects as well, assignments. There's different ways to assess people.
Yeah.
We're very stuck in the old ways of a test
Yes.
and marks.
Yeah.
You can give marks for different things. You can give marks for what we're doing right here.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that the universities also quickly go there. And then I think a big element is, IT, being tech savvy.
Yeah.
Your world is I now read on my big phone. But back in the days, it was a tablet. It moved from a laptop to
Yeah.
tablet. Nowadays, you're reading on a phone. I read a lot, like I say, but where do I read? I don't read books. I read actually books on the phone. So
Yeah.
I think it's that ability to be just tech savvy. Just ability to work with Excel, to work with Microsoft Word, the basics, because when you land into the big world, that it is expected, but also demanded of you that, you will basically perform at that level.
Definitely. So you would take it upon yourself to make more active choice in getting those soft skills.
I would push myself, even if
tech-savvy.
the universities don't do it.
Yeah.
I would actually go and say, let me start working on Microsoft Excel. Let me work on, Excel, on Word, what else? PowerPoint out
Yeah.
there. So I think we do the basics. We upskill our students as well. You must have gone through the courses on Excel, on
Yes.
Word. But I think more can be done.
Yeah.
I think what happens is, as a student, and with IT, it works like that. If you use it now, it works. But if you don't use it, a day later, you lose it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with computers. And I think you need to play a lot more with computers in a computer world to be in tune with it all the time and to be on top of your game as well. And I think, something I would push myself, even if it was today, and I was talking to Muneer, I would say, make sure it's not just about the technical. Technical must be in place. It will help you. It will be appreciated in the workspace. But together with the technical, is this concept of soft skills that must merge and come together.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned soft skills because I think we forget, especially in an area like audit, there's a lot of, it's a client facing
face
type
service
of, yes, it's a
industry.
customer service. So you speak with the client a lot, etc., and you expected to conduct yourself a lot, and you thrown in the deep end when it comes to that from university because I guess it's not covered like you've mentioned, and there's no focus on that. So nice that you mentioned that. What was the first big purchase that you made after qualifying as a chartered accountant?
So the big purchase, and it's family is so important as well. And I recall going to my dad, to my brothers, to my sisters, and it was buying a BMW,
Oh,
a
okay.
box-shaped BMW back in the day. And I
I
think,
think you mentioned this in one of your lectures.
and I think if you like something, you must also do it. Life is short as well. So I'm very attracted to cars. If I had lots of money, I would have many cars. But at that point in time, I just wanted to drive a BMW, and it was a big decision for me at the time. It was
Yeah.
lots of money. I suddenly came into money as well.
Yeah.
And I said, look, I'm going to do this because I want to actually do it. In hindsight,
Yeah, that was actually my follow-up question. Do you regret?
I do. BM is
Okay.
very expensive to maintain out of motor
Okay.
plan, which I've learned subsequently.
Yeah.
Obviously, I couldn't afford a new BM, so I bought it out of motor plan.
Okay.
But something you learn quickly is that BMs are being sold out of motor plan quickly and fastly. Why? Because they're very expensive to maintain out of motor plan. So the cost of that becomes big. But it was a big decision. I consulted like being Muneer, and I think that's why the tax in me comes out. Consult, and then still
Yeah.
make my own decision about something.
Yes. When I look at your track record, something stands out, and that's discipline. So you've managed to be extremely disciplined along your career. What systems do you put in place to stay that disciplined and to meet your goals?
So to be honest, Precious, and you know this better than me, I think the discipline that I learned is the Chartered Accountant program.
Okay.
No one can become a Chartered Accountant without discipline. I would disagree that there is any Chartered Accountant that actually made it without ill or having ill discipline. So discipline is important. And I think what I've done is I actually used that discipline that I've learned in the journey of becoming a chartered accountant, and I took it into the workspace.
Yeah.
There's a book, I'm not sure if you know about, by Robin Sharma, the 5 a.m. Club.
Yes, I think it's.
I love the book.
Oh, yes.
And what it says is that, get up early and be determined and, start your day early. Because if you start your day early and get over a lot of those hurdles, then you'll have time for people during the day. So that's important. You ask me, how do I do all this? How do I achieve all this?
Yeah.
And when I'm actually sucking for time and I'm under pressure, I would start my days earlier. I would make sure that, when the rest of the world is sleeping, that's the best time. Nobody will phone you. Believe you me.
Yeah.
At 5 a.m.,
That is true.
no kids are up. No wife is around. The world is asleep. And the amount that you can actually do at that particular point in time is amazing. You'll get to do your day's work, to be honest. And when the rest of the world wakes up, you can do this. You can actually converse with them.
Yeah.
They want to come to seek your counsel. They want to come in for a chat. And you get to still to be with people
Yes.
and to
Yeah.
do your work. So it's something I learned at Saika as well. When I leaded the big team as well, it was a big team. It was 20 people. When I got into work, there's 20 people coming at you. They want your time. That 8 hours of your day, they want to consult with you. They got problems, and you're going to help them solve their problems in their lives.
Yeah.
You didn't have time for your own work, and when do you create that? I'm not going to do that on the weekend
Yeah.
because it's family time.
Yeah.
So what you do is you start waking up early each day, and you give the time to it, and before you know it, your own work is done, and you actually get the flexibility to do other things as well.
Yeah.
That's the very success, I think, to my PhD as well.
Okay. So you worked on it.
I worked on it early in the morning. I believe you me, Precious. The PhD was written at 5 a.m.
Oh wow. Wow, that's encouraging. I also realize now in my third year of articles, I struggle with having to assist so many people during the course of the day, and then I don't get my stuff done.
You see, and you don't want to do it. Like I'm not a night person.
No, neither
so,
am I. Neither am
you know,
I.
that's time for family anyway.
Yeah, and
so
you reach a point where you can't give excuses anymore. You just need
Yeah.
to get the things done. So
Try it.
whether it's waking up in the morning to get it done, like
And you know,
it
you
needs to
think
get done.
it's trivial, but start doing it. And if you look at just 3 hours or 2 hours, even if it's 2 hours a day, that's 10 hours a week. That's a
Yes.
lot that you can do in 10 hours on your own, quiet time to yourself.
Yes,
And
yes.
suddenly that becomes very productive time early in the morning.
Are you still waking up at 5 a.m.?
So not in the winters,
Okay.
definitely in the summers.
Okay.
But when I'm under pressure, I do it.
Okay.
The way I manage my life is that if I get under pressure, if I've got a deliverable and I've taken it upon myself and I can't do it in the day, I will simply wake up the next day at 5 a.m. In the summers, it could be as early as 4 a.m. because the sun
Yeah.
rises earlier than that.
Okay. And how do you strike a balance? You mentioned your wife and children. How do you strike a balance between work life and your personal life and family time?
So I think, you know, when I was at SAICA, it was quite difficult because it demanded of me, and the kids were smaller, and my family time did burn. I'll be honest, and that's
Yeah.
part of the reason why I actually came into the lecturing world. Is
Okay.
that the SAICA world was quite difficult. It was demanding. I flew a lot. I was doing international travel. I had local travel. I was meeting members. So it sucked a lot of the time, and it was difficult to balance between family and personal life.
This is
Psychos-
when you worked at Psycha.
This is where I worked. I was heading the tax division as well, and then eventually I was senior executive of the standards division. So it was quite a big portfolio. It became
Yeah,
accounting,
that's
tax,
massive.
audit, everything was in there. Big portfolio. But the good thing is, there comes a time where, I had a very supportive wife. She seen to the kids a lot. She made sure that they also excel. She was there for them when I was chasing my will. Fortunately, she was a home wife, so she could attend to the kids, and she chased that world, if you want to call it.
Yeah.
And she done what she needed to do. I didn't either. I chased a career, but it came to a particular point in time where I said, I need this balance as well.
Yeah.
And that's when actually I decided to go into the academic world. Funny story is how I got into tax. The tax advisory or personal consulting world is naturally, once you go into tax, you know how it goes. Once you in tax, people will come to you. You'll come to me and say, "Can you help me out with a tax return? Can't you do my taxes?" Your
I already
buddies
get
start
those
coming.
questions, and I don't have my PhD in
So
taxation.
you see, people
imagine
will
the
naturally
questions
come to you,
get.
and the more you specialize in it, it becomes bigger because now people want to come to your buddies want to come to you with companies that they form
Yeah.
and help me with tax, help me with the tax structure. And when I was at SAICA, that was not permitted. So what happened
Oh.
is, because that's the membership itself, because remember, the members do that.
Okay.
If I was working for SAICA and I had to also advise in tax space, I would be competing with my profession,
Yes.
and that was not permitted. And that's when the world of the university opened up to me,
Okay.
and that gave me the flexibility, because it usually they would allow me that, and it would allow me the lecturing. So I got to do the best of both worlds, if you want to call it. I got the ability to actually run a practice on the side, do my consulting and tax
This is
advisory.
Muneer Hassan.
That's
tax
MH tax consulting in my personal capacity, but at the same time also do what I love, which is lecturing,
Yes.
and imparting knowledge. So I think the university opened that world to me, but it also then, circling back to the question that you asked me, I must always be careful that you're the one asking the questions now, so I must answer it. How do I balance that life? And I think, I think just having the ability to do so much, but the flexibility of the university in terms of what I do, when I do it, how I do it, and balancing that with the kids, with the wife as well, gives you the flexibility of working when you need to and not particularly 8 to 5.
Yeah.
And I think, like I said, the weekend is a weekend. It's something that's family time,
Yeah.
and that's very important.
Okay, I also imagine that you would need to prioritize what work things cut into family
You
time.
have to.
Yeah.
So sometimes, and I think, you also have to, at a certain point, you have to say no to certain things. I don't like saying no. I think when people ask, they're asking because they need your help. You shouldn't naturally say no.
Yeah.
But if it's not if it doesn't cut within what you do, or if it's going to take a lot more time, and you don't have the time, or you're going to do a bad job at it, then say no.
Yeah.
Because rather not take it on if you know you're not going to give 110% to it.
Yeah.
So at a certain point in time, you also have to reevaluate what you do and what you can do and what you can't do. You can't do everything as well.
Yes.
You try to do everything, but you also can't do everything. I
Yeah.
think you have to be honest to yourself as
Yeah,
well.
exactly. You recently obtained your PhD in
I
taxation.
did, yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Tell us about your thesis.
So the thesis is, I see it as a whole circle of life for me. I started at the VAT department in the Fox Street office in Johannesburg, like I say. My thesis was in VAT. So when I went to, if you follow my journey, so
Yeah.
in tax, I started in VAT. I then went to SAICA, and at SAICA, I headed the tax division. But one of the areas that I was responsible for is the VAT department as well, or the VAT committee, because the SAICA VAT committee fed into the National Tax Committee, so it was part of the bigger taxes. So I experienced firsthand at SARS the administrative difficulty of the act when I was there. When I got to SAICA, I could see the practice issues around VAT. But it was only when I got to the University of Johannesburg, and my very first lecture I had to do was VAT. And I tried to lecture this, and I said, it's impossible. And then I'd seen the teaching difficulty of the VAT Act. And when I look at the three components, when I look at the fact that it was difficult to administer, it's difficult to practice, and it is difficult to teach. Till today, I do not use the VAT Act to teach because
Okay.
it's a mess, it's a nightmare, it's scattered, it's difficult. There's 10 sections one needs to consult, and it's all over the show in relation to unpacking one single VAT event or VAT implication. And
Yeah.
it shouldn't be like that. It should be all over. It shouldn't be all over the act. It should be nicely positioned in one place where you can find things, and you know the implication, and you know the non-implication of it. It should be packaged quite nicely.
Yeah.
The act mustn't be difficult to read. It mustn't be made for specialists only to read. It must be made for me and you, the normal common
Regular
businessman as
citizens,
well.
yeah.
The ability to read it and understand it. The VAT Act is not like that. It's difficult. Till today, like I say, what I do is I use the SARS guide as a teaching module. I teach outside of the Act. I almost choose to ignore the Act because of its difficulty.
Okay.
And because of that, I said, when I looked at my PhD and what can I do, I said, there's a real life problem and we need a solution. And I decided to embark on the journey and create a framework for the simplification of the VAT Act. And what my PhD has produced, I was very fortunate also to be able to interview SARS people. I interviewed National Treasury.
Oh.
The draft of the VAT Act as well was interviewed. I interviewed academics, and I also interviewed then practitioners, so those that actually practice VAT as well. So I was fortunate to look at VAT from the four, if you want to call it at least as three different lenses, which is academia, which is practice and administration of the Act. And what my thesis shows is that it is difficult from all angles because of the layout and the structure. My conclusion to the thesis is that we need a rewrite of the Act, but it needs to happen in a stage or step process. And I
Yeah.
think the first step is to get a framework. And what my framework has done is to produce the first step, which is an index to the VAT Act, which brings all these different sections together as an index at the back, or it can be put in the front of the Act or at the back of the Act. And once you've got that, you can actually now navigate easily through the Act. But in time, hopefully, I hope that one day we're going to actually see a rewrite of the Act in totality.
That's amazing. And I'm sure we will. I'm sure.
I hope we will.
Time. Yes, I'm sure we will. Yeah, that's you lectured the VAT section
I did.
very well.
Oh, thank you.
It
Thanks,
looked like
Precious.
I could wake you up in the middle of the night and you'd be able to tell me any section number. That's very encouraging, especially coming from a place where you found tax a struggle in your student days. I recently read an article about your journey to PhD. And you mentioned how you needed to, sit your family down and ask them for their support on embarking on that journey. Tell us a bit about that and the sacrifices that you needed to
Look,
encounter.
it's a big sacrifice, Precious. Writing a PhD, to take what you've got in your mind and put it into 350, 400 pages, it's
Yeah.
not easy.
I can imagine.
It takes a lot out of you. It takes a beating as well. I managed to do it in record time in 2 years as well. So I think a couple of points. One is, you probably look at me and you think, Precious Muneer, you don't need a mentor, but I have a mentor. And part of the reason I actually embarked upon this journey was my mentor.
Yeah.
She said, you got to do it if you're going to stay in academia. This is something that you just have to do for yourself. I was not thinking about it. I'll be honest. At a particular stage, I said, after my master's, I need a break from this now,
Yeah.
a break from writing a little bit, and family time, like you say. The master's itself was a big hurdle, and it sucked a lot of personal time as well. And I think then it was a difficult conversation of having the conversation with the family, with my wife as well. If I didn't have the support, I don't think I would have achieved it, to be honest. When I got the support of her, it became very easy. When she said, if this is what you want to do and it means a lot to you, I'll support you in every ways. I also found I was almost in a windfall situation, to be honest, because at that particular point, my son was doing, the CTA as well, and he was in his CTA. My daughter was doing first year BAc. And what I found is, because I had two teenagers and where I found myself at that particular point and the space in my life, the more they started studying, the more I could sit in to work on my PhD.
Yes.
The more they put discipline and effort into their studies, the more I got motivated to do my PhD.
Yeah, and I'm sure it rubbed off of everybody.
And
in
it
the
was like
family.
it was a beautiful
amazing.
ecosystem within the
Yeah.
Hassan family, and everybody was just driving to what they needed to do. And I used that time to obviously the more they studied, the more they motivated me, to be honest. So I drew my motivation from them in the house. The more they persevered and overcame, because the CTA is not an easy year.
Yeah.
It's a very difficult year. So
Yeah.
to come over that and the effort you needed to put in to your
Yes.
studies and the hours that it took as well. And I think that's what, I also say that to a certain degree, I found myself in a windfall. I think if it had been when the kids were smaller, it would have been very difficult.
Yes.
But I also think the maturity helped me. Having gone through life, having seen the issue, experienced it firsthand in reality, in the market, in different areas, I think that maturity made the writing so much more easier.
Yeah. So you say you completed in record time. How long do people usually take to complete it?
So they give you 5 years.
Okay.
Some people do get extensions for that. So the normal time, what a university would expect you to do, it is a 5-year time to ensure also that you mature.
Okay.
There's something called maturity in your PhD as well. But I think, so the minimum time is actually 2 years. They won't allow you to do it within 2 years, because then also there's a sense of questions around, have you actually matured in that topic?
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. And you mentioned you had a mentor that assisted, or have a mentor.
Yeah.
Is this in the area of career, academics? Does she help with what's the next step you should take?
She does.
Also, how did you find her? For someone that myself, I would love a mentor.
I'll mention her name. I don't think she'll take exception to it, Prof. Amanda Dempsey. so you will know of her.
Yes.
So I found her at UJ, and she took me in as early as a mentee.
Okay.
We would have regular meetings. She was quite strict as a mentor as well, I can tell you.
Like held you accountable. and stuff.
Monthly, we would have meetings. She was a good mentor as well,
Okay.
in the sense that she would have a track of what we had discussed last month and what we discussed in this month and what progress we've made and what we didn't make. So she was quite strict in that sense. And you need somebody that's also going to push you. And I think what she done very well is nudge. I use the word nudge, where she pushed me in certain areas, and she knew she wouldn't over push me.
Yeah.
She knew my capabilities as well. And in certain aspects, she would say, okay, now it's time. Now, Muneer, you had the 2 years off after your master's. I think it's time for you to do the PhD.
Yeah.
And I would do it. I still seek a counsel till today. So if I had, when I was faced with a deputy HOD position, I would seek a counsel. And if I had to take any big decisions in life, I would still trust her and trust her with her wisdom, because of, I trust what she would put on the table would be good for me.
How do you approach that conversation? Do you go up to someone and say, please be my mentor? Or is it the label you give for someone that just provides ongoing advice?
So what happened at UJ at a particular point, I think, you also must be comfortable with the person. You can't just go in, you can't just select a mentor for the sake of having a mentor. It's a very close relationship. It's something that must work for you, for the mentee, for the mentor, and you must also be comfortable. You must be comfortable as a mentee. The mentor must be comfortable with you as well. So I think it's not also easy, Precious, to just select anybody out there.
Yeah.
You must also be comfortable with the person. You must respect the person that you have as your mentor, because you're going to actually take that advice upon yourself. So I think when you look at somebody for your mentor as well, it's somebody that you hold the worlds of respect, and somebody you're going to take serious, like a fatherly figure, a motherly figure, somebody that you know that if they're going to tell you something, you would take it upon. You would not frown upon it, and you would seriously consider it because of their wisdom that they come with.
Your children pursuing the accountancy stream, was that influenced by you?
They will say, well, my wife will say yes.
Okay.
I'll argue differently. And remember, I am a tax consultant. I can argue these things with a solid basis of argument. My son initially was looking at IT, and he was always wanting to do IT, always. He said from schooling days, like standard 8, 9, when you're starting to choose subjects as well.
Yeah.
And then he just came one day home. I don't know what changed him. And he said, I'm becoming a chartered accountant.
You don't know what changed him.
I don't know what changed him. I didn't have a talk to him. I promise you. My wife thinks differently. It's my conversations and influence. My daughter also, she considered legal, law as well. And then she took a decision, not me, to do the BAc. But I think she's liking it as well.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, as a parent, I'm sure you want the best for your child and your children. So influencing them directly or indirectly to go along that path shows that you're truly happy with how the accountancy, the profession, has been towards yourself. And obviously it tells the audience that this is actually a great profession to embark on.
No, it is precious. We have had our hurdles as a profession. At one stage I felt hurt as well when we were going through the issues that we did experience as a profession.
Yeah.
But I think, we're a solid profession. It's 100-year-old profession. I always say that at Psyche as well. We didn't just come about with this profession yesterday. It's more than 100 years old now. There's a book written about it. It's a good book to look at as well.
Okay.
The 100-year profession. Psyche has actually written a book on that.
Okay.
And I think we've come a long way. I think we've had our ups, our downs, but we've matured or so, and we've come through it. I looked the other day, and we're back to the top rankings. South Africa is again in the top of the rankings in terms of audit assurance and accounting as well. We've gone down. We've had our We've taken our punches and our knocks, and I think it's good. It's good that we've come through that. We needed to fix certain things, which we did as well.
Yeah.
I also think I must put that, on the table. Is I do think we overly criticize by the media in comparison to other professions.
Okay.
Things do go wrong in other professions where, lives are at stake. If we look at the engineering professions as well, and other professions, legal professions as well, they've had their issues. But I do think when it comes to accounting and chartered accounting, because we are in the top and we're expected to be, the number one all the time, when we do falter a little bit,
Yeah.
we come heavy under media
Yes.
scrutiny. And that's fine, but I'm just making the point that I think it also needs to be fair with other professions.
Yeah, it does. It does. On taxation, if let's say you've gone deeply into studying it and PhD masters, will this limit you to South Africa if you ever want to relocate? Especially because it's like very legal and applicable to South Africa.
I don't think so. I think if I really wanted to go, my co-supervisor was from New Zealand, Prof.
Okay.
Adrian Sawyer. The VAT Act is actually benchmarked and based on the New Zealand Act. So remember, a lot of our taxes, I mean, the GARB, the General Anti-Avoidance Rules that you learned, the Section 80s,
Yes.
those are benchmarks on UK, on America. It's
Okay.
American influence coming through there. So, a lot, our capital gains tax come from the UK. So we've got quite a diverse act in the sense that we've borrowed from many countries because nobody's going to start the act and drafting from a white piece of paper. They obviously would look internationally, take the best practice, and we've incorporated that into the act. And I think if I wanted to pursue something overseas, I don't think it would be difficult. I think to actually have the exposure and experience that I have from South Africa could be a benefit. It's not going to be difficult to study up another act because the art of learning to interpret the act is the same. And that's why, the skill that we must teach is not the scope and implication. Yes, you need to know of every section,
Yeah.
but it's rather the ability to interpret each section, understand the policy and where it comes from. Because remember, there are new sections that have come about after you've left the PGDA course as well. And you must have that ability to go and read up that section. And that's the skill we must empower people to do that, even if the section had to change or the act had to change, the skill of interpreting legislation and applying it. And I think that's, if you have that skill, that's a very powerful skill with any law. And that makes you versatile. You can actually go anywhere in the world and you can read any piece of legislation with that sense of ability that I can actually interpret the law. So I don't think it's a barrier. I think, you think tax is local and it's South African, but we intermix with the rest of the world and we are intertwined as well with the rest of the world.
Advice to anyone studying towards the CASA profession?
I think number one, have a conversation with yourself. Why do I want to do this? You must want to do it. And you also must have that reasons why do you want it? Why do you want to become a chartered accountant? It must mean a lot to you. Once you've got that in the bag, then I think putting the plan into action, the discipline, the plan, how am I going to achieve this? The focus, the determination to get you there. I think like with anything in life, the why is important. So ask yourself why. Once you've unpacked that question and you got over that question, then the implementation becomes easy. You will do it if you understand why you want to do it and why you need it so much.
And back to Muneer Hassan Tax Consulting.
Yeah.
The economic climate of South Africa is looking rough. There's a really high rate of unemployment. So a lot of people are, because they can't find jobs, they're looking to start their own. And what advice would you give to someone in looking for what business to start? So the initial stage, business idea.
So I think, Precious, it comes back to, the whole theme of the conversation we've had. And I think it's about your passion. Find your passion, chase it like you can't ever chase anything in life. The money will come. If I tell you, Precious, still today I've not advertised one. There's no website. I don't have a website. You'll
Okay.
notice. I haven't put an advert out. But the work comes to me because I like it and because of what I do as well.
Yeah.
And people entrust you.
Yes.
Be passionate about it. Deliver with confidence, with, give it your all. When somebody asks you for something or asks you for an opinion or tax work, make sure you take pride in it as well. It's all referral work. Every client I've got till today has been somebody that's referred me to somebody else. So it's all by reference. It's all about you as a person. Remember, you said it.
Yeah.
You find yourself in the service world. It's difficult to sell yourself.
Yeah.
Service is very different to product.
Yes.
Product you can touch and feel. Service is what you are selling.
Yes.
And it's intangible, isn't it? I sit and think about my life as well, and just something to ponder about. So I've always been in the service industry. If you think about it, I worked for SARS, which is service. I worked for Psycho, which is service, and I'm working for UJ, which is service. So I think there's something about, but there is something that you can do and you can actually excel in the service industry. I think the youngsters out there, my message is find that passion, run at it with two hands, the money will come.
Yeah.
The money will follow the passion.
Yeah. And usually you get a comment from that with someone coming from advantaged backgrounds. And if you mentioned at the beginning of this episode that wasn't the case for you, and you still say, find your passion, run with it, the money will come.
It will
So
come.
yeah, that speaks volumes. Speaks volumes. Do you think being a chartered accountant gives you a competitive advantage in the area of business?
Definitely. I think undoubtedly. I think, even though I'm involved in the South African Institute of Taxation and, a chartered tax advisor is in the tax space what a chartered accountant wants to achieve or the same level of prestige. I think even if you talk to any other profession, I think they recognize the chartered accountant as the premier designation. Not only in South Africa, I also think internationally. I think we stand above the rest of the world. South African chartered accountants in particular are sought after, heavily sought after, because of our technical skills. And like I said, we need to incorporate that softer skills with it, because if we do that, we've got a very powerful profession coming our way.
Yeah.
But I think definitely it's a competitive edge, undoubtedly, if you have the CA brand on your CV.
Yeah.
I think the most difficult thing till today that I've ever done is passing the chartered accountant exam. Not even the PhD will come close to the chartered. Yeah. If I sit back and reflect, and I think what is the most difficult thing I've done in life?
Are these boards or the CTA?
The CTA was for me more difficult than even the board exam. The board I felt that once you over the PhD, the PGDA, you felt like you're comfortable, you can actually tackle the board. You gave me the confidence, that I can do this now. But just getting that,
That's so encouraging.
PGDA.
So you think we can get PhDs?
If you can do the PGDA, which was much more difficult than the PhD, I think you can do the PhD one.
Okay, that's very encouraging. If you're listening and watching this, go for your PhD. Thank you so much, Muneer.
Thank you,
I had
Precious.
a lovely time. Thank you for unpacking, sharing your knowledge, sharing your experiences with all of us. Where can we find you, follow your next steps?
At UJ. So I'm still at UJ, and I'm accessible. You'll find me on LinkedIn. You'll find me on, I am on the website on UJ, so it's very easy to find me.
Okay.
If you Google me, you'll find me.
You're very active on LinkedIn as well.
I am,
you can follow on your journey.
You can.
What's next?
So I don't know, what's next. Right now, I think a little bit of a breather from the PhD.
Yeah.
But I do think, I can never sit still. My wife says it as well. So I think there will be something something next again,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it will be something big, I hope, again.
Okay, we'll have our eyes on
But keep
our
your eyes on me.
screens.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you,
for
Precious.
coming through. I
Really honor and privilege, like I say.
Thank you so much. That's
Thank
so
you.
kind of you. Thank you for watching this episode. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment any questions that you have for Muneer. Be sure to check out the comments down if there's
Will
anything
do.
directed to you. Thank you for watching, you guys. Until my next episode. Bye.